Hello and welcome back to the Linux Panic YouTube channel. In this video, we're going to be looking at setting up a Proxmox Virtual Machine from logging into Proxmox to uploading a new ISO to getting the virtual machine set up and then getting it running. But before we do that, I would like to thank my channel members. These people are people who've decided to become channel members. They get early access to videos like this one before everyone else does. So I would like to thank Von Garden, Vilmarie, Mislav, Jasillo, and Hopkins von Rabbitarius for being channel members. So let's get into the video. Now, probably wondering, well, why Proxmox? Well, this is a virtualization operating system. It is designed to run virtual machines. Now, this is installed on my server. If you are a longer time member of the channel, or long time subscriber, you'll know that I have a server, a DL380G6 that I run Proxmox on. It's not turned on all the time, but it is for this. So let's get logged in. So first things first, just the root login and the password that I have set. We can choose realms. We're not going to mess around with that. We're just going to leave language as is. We're going to log in, and as we can see here, it is going to say you have no valid subscription for this server. That is expected, because I don't, but you can use Proxmox without needing a prescription, a subscription even, not prescription. Now, when you log into Proxmox, this is the screen you will be greeted with, not the other one, but this is just general information. As we can see here, I'm using a total of 1.3% of the disk, so it's nothing. And as we can see here, we've got 24 cores and it's been up for 35 minutes. So what we're going to do is we're going to come here to local, and as we can see here, I already have 3 ISOs on the server, but we're not going to use one of these ISOs. We're actually going to upload an ISO. So what we're going to do is we're going to come to the downloads folder, and we're going to have a look at the ISOs we have available. In this case, we're going to do Debian 12. We're going to select this ISO and then select upload. This will take as long as it takes to go from this computer through 2 switches and then up to the server. Now, it shouldn't take all that long to upload, but networking and how fast the server wants to take it in. So I will pause the recording whilst we wait. Okay, now that we're back, I've had to manually log into the server through FileZilla here. As we can see, the root path for the ISO images is var lib vz template ISO. Now what we want to do is we want to grab this and then upload it to here. Now this will take a little bit of time because it's got to transfer it all, so we'll return once I've back and confirmed it's working. Okay, now that we are back and we've confirmed that this ISO is indeed installed, what we want to do is we want to come to create VM and give it a node. In this case, it's just going to be this VM ID. Let's just go for 501 for Debian. In this case, it's going to be Debian ISO, or Debian LXP, Linux Panic, and resource pool. We'll just leave that alone for a minute because there's nothing there we need to worry about. Yes, this will be a local ISO, and it will be this one. It will be Linux, and it will be of the 5.x or above. As we can see here, this is only showing 5.x because at the time of this Proxmox version, 5.x was the most up-to-date kernel. It's not so now. Graphics card will just be default, and SCSI controller will again be default. Hard disk, this is where we get to choose how much storage we wish to give to the virtual machine. So in this case, we'll just go for 64 gigs, and it'll be on the local ZFS pool. As we can see here, as a total of 522 gigabytes available, and we're going to give it a 64 gigabytes. And it's going to be on the SCSI bus again, no cache and default the CPU. And this part here, we can choose how much the virtual machine is going to get core wise. Now, this is a 24 core machine, so we'll set this to 24 cores. We'll will be a bit nicer and go 22. So there's 2 left for the host, as we can see here. These are the extra CPU flags we could utilize if we wanted to. Nope, just gonna leave that alone. RAM, this is a choice. And this is the screen where we can choose how much RAM we want to give to this. Now, because I have the capability to do more, let's just do 1024 times 64. So in this case, it is 65536. What we want to do is 65536. 65536. So we're going to give this 64 gigabytes worth of RAM. Networking, this will just be VM. We'll just leave this all as is. Power visualize, no hassle there. And what we have here is a virtual machine that has 22 cores with 64 gigabytes worth of RAM and 1 socket and 1 VM virtual machine ID of 501. We select finish, and now we have number 501 here. This is just general information on it. And what we want to do is we want to select start. This is then start up the virtual machine. We need to open the console and then find out where it's gone. As we can see here, what we need to do is do this and then do full screen and select a graphical install. So this may appear like a regular virtual machine, but if this were, there we go. But this is, well, it's not just a regular virtual machine. This is being hosted across on my server across the network. As we can see here, there's a little bit of ghosting. But we want to select United Kingdom, continue, British English, detecting hardware. So this is going to be a little bit faster than most operating systems because this is going to have a whacking great amount of RAM and CPU cores. This is above, over and above the standard you'd get for an operating system, and because I can do, we are going straight for insanity. We're going balls to the wall with it because if you can, why not? As we can see here, it's just configuring networks, just standard configuration. We're just going to leave that alone, leave that alone. Let it get through. We set a root password of just root because for the time being, that's all we want to do. Root is view system. Select a different one. Fine. PVE. Sorry. PVE and PVE. Continue. The PVE is just Proxmox Virtual Environment. I'm just giving it that for this one. What you see here is like the actual virtual machine, which I like. It just runs well. Guided using entire disk. Continue. Yes. All in one place. We just want to get all the way through. No hassle. Continue. Yes, write the changes to the disk. Continue. So that's now going to partition the disk. And then it should, in theory, just go whoop, fly straight through. Because this isn't a standard install process. If we, I will leave a card in the top right hand corner now for when I install Debian 12 on this system here. The host, well, not the host system, my Linux operating system. Now, the reason why I said this isn't the host system is because this isn't the host system. The host system is the server. Like, I've not installed Debian 12 on a virtual machine on the host system before. So that's why doing this here is not the host system. But I've installed Debian 12 before, so I'll make a little card. But what this is just doing is just going through, packaging on, downloading, unpacking, configuring, and then going from there with it. So this will take significantly less time than previous installs I've done. This may take more time. It may take more or less time depending on what you're running for Proxmox. But in my case, I've given it the full Monty. And if we just minimize this down, we can actually have a look here to see what what's going on. As we can see here, disk IO. So Rove 8.92 megabytes, and this is on an hourly average. If we drop this down to, we can't really drop it down much at all actually, so let's just zoom in. As we can see here, it is using all 64 gigabytes worth of, well, it's not using all 64 gigabytes, but it's seeing it's got all 64 gigabytes. It's only using a total of 800 megabytes, which, if you ask me, is pretty good. But as we can see here, this network traffic in and out, it's well, it's a Debian install. Of course, it's going to be spectacular. Now, all we have to do is just sit and wait for this to be done. So we'll return when it's done. Okay, so now that we've got past the one we got stuck at, we're just going through. It's going to configure package manager. No, I don't wish to scan for anything more. United Kingdom, and we'll go for FTP UK Debian. No proxy. This is just going to scan the mirror, do any configuring of the package manager. So in this case, it's just receiving 9 files, or it's retrieving 9 for apt, and then it's just going to go through the apt configuration, which again shouldn't take any time at all. And it's going to do the standard update upgrade, which I very much like that it's doing upon install. Ubuntu Canonical could learn a thing or two from this, if you ask me, but that's neither here nor there. So again, it's just a sit command and waiting. It shouldn't take too long at all, because again, it's just standard install process with a whacking great ton of system resources available to it. As we can see here, the RAM usage is gently ticking up, and the CPU cores are not really being kicked that hard at all. I would love to be able to zoom out on the graph, but I can't. But we will just come to monitor, and nothing going on here. We can see the task history of starting and creating it, the hardware, what it's doing, the console, which is this, which we don't want because we've already got a console open. And as we can see here, this is what it's doing. It's using 4% or 5% of the 22 cores it's got, and 3% of its 64 gigabytes of RAM. So it's just sipping it. Note of the popularity contest. And if we just move this here, we can just see what it's doing. So again, for this, it's just going to give us options. Now, I am going to go for cinnamon because no to gnome. We do not agree with gnome here. We're not a gnome household here. Thank you very much. And again, it's just going to download all the files it can, as we can see here by the network graph. This one here, just kicking up to megabytes per second instead of kilobytes per second. Again, it's just turning into a wait game. So we'll return when it's done. Okay, now that we are going through the process of actually installing and unpackaging, we can see here the RAM starting to pick up a bit, the CPU starting to pick up a bit. We can see how spiky the CPU usage graph is and how spiky the network traffic is. As we can see, it spikes up to 14 megabytes per second. And the RAM usage is starting to kick up. This isn't representative of the total because it's just a broad strokes. As we can see here, it's spiky from where it has been used. It's not accurate. It's just broad. Well, it's accurate for the app based off an hour, but it's just broad strokes in relation to what it actually has done. So again, we want to grab this, and as we can see here, it's just unpacking, installing, moving on to the next one, which is standard for installing operating system. As you can see here, it's going through packages quickly, which is good because it's, if I remember correctly, it's over 1,500 packages in Debian 12 installs. So it does just become a waiting game of waiting for it to finish. Yay, everyone's favorite thing. This is the point where you walk away, go make yourself a drink, and come back, and it should be done. In this case, it will be done because, well, it's Debian, so I'm going to walk away and go make myself a drink. So we'll be back once it's done. Okay, now that we're starting to get through some of the smaller packages, as we can see here, it's just absolutely flying through, which is the point of me giving this as much as it can take. As we can see here, it's using a total of 8 of the 64 gigabytes, and it is using 1% of the CPU. 1 to 6% of the CPU, which, if you ask me, is not that bad at all. But what we can see is how spiky it's getting, bearing in mind this is still 6%. And yeah, so we are absolutely just flying through this. Again, this is configuring CA certificates. I remember that one from when I was doing Linux from scratch. I might actually end up doing a Linux from scratch video, Linux from scratch stream on this server. Bearing in mind, I do stream Linux from scratch stuff every Saturday at 9 PM GMT. So if you're interested in watching it, why not come along, get involved, and watch as I cry aggressively at a operating system that does not want to play ball with me, because it can do. We will be doing System D next time for this Saturday. So, oh dear. If you're a long-time viewer, if you're a viewer of the streams, you know for a fact that System D has not worked for me at all, and I only just got the System V Init Linux from scratch version. Only just got it working, and I have to change how it boots up every single time to make sure it does boot correctly. But again, we're just waiting for the final few packages to go through. It shouldn't take too long at all, because they're small ones. As we can see here, the graphs are updating. It's now starting to pick up with the RAM usage. It's now getting towards 9 gigabytes worth of RAM, which is good. It's good to see. But again, this is just a majority. This is just a sit and wait. Like, there's not really much we can do. So we'll return once it's done. This was unexpected. Restore all crash tabs. Well, even though the tab did crash, the virtual machine is still running in the background, because this is just the console to get access to it. So it's fine. If it says crash tab, don't. It's fine. We don't have to worry about it. As we can see here, it's quite happily chugging along. We just need to wait for the select and install software to catch back up, and then we can, as we can see here, it's installing the Grub bootloader, which is expected. And again, it'll take no time at all. Yes, install the Grub bootloader on the primary drive, on SDA, and that's just gonna grub install dev SDA. The amount of times I had to install grub in the past few months. Oh lord. But now that we are getting through, it's just going to finish off doing the final bits of installation. As we can see here, it's detected that it is indeed a QEMU guest agent, which is another wonderful thing about Debian. It can detect if it's running in a virtual machine or not, as it's telling me now. Hey, look, I'm a virtual machine. I'm a real boy. But that's just gonna catch up. That's doing microcode, because that is running on, well, the server is 2 E5650s. Well, sorry, X5650s even. So that is expected. It's those 2 Intel server CPUs from a decade ago, a decade plus, really. But they're still good. They're still working, and they're still serving purpose and powerful. So I'm not one to complain. Still works, and if it's still working, good stuff. But now we're just waiting for it to finish off doing in its RAM file system and finish off the installation. So we'll return once it's restarting. Okay, so now that we are ready for rebooting, what we're going to do is we're going to full screen this. Say, hey, look, reboot for me, please. I would like for you to reboot. So this is just doing the usual. That is expected. Don't worry about the errors there. It's fine. I promise. And now what we're going to do is load in. Welcome to Grub. Thank you. This is the BIOS version, and this is just going to do the usual boot up stuff. Now this is the point where we can actually expand the screen once we get to the desktop and actually go full screen instead of just the partial we had. So PVE, login. Oops, sorry, I didn't mean to catch you. As we can see here, we have this. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a display settings, virtual one, and we're going to go 1080, apply, keep new configuration. This does look nice. This is going to be a bit choppy because it's inside of a browser, inside of a virtual machine, because this is a browser inside this, what's come from this, and again, this is a virtual machine, so remote desktop virtual machines do tend to be a bit choppier. But again, what we want to do is we'll just do SU, and if this would work, please. And what we're going to do is we want to do apt install neofetch, and we will give neofetch a quick run to see what we've got, and then that's where we will call it. As we can see, it's pretty easy to install it, pretty simple. Most of it is just waiting around for the operating system, really. We spent less time messing around with the operating system, messing around with the setup than we did waiting for the operating system. So as we can see here, it's been up for a total of 1 minute. It's running, the resolution is not correct, but that's fine. GPU is standard, CPU is running at 22 cores at 2.665 gigahertz, which is expected, and 64 gigabytes worth of RAM. So I'd like to thank you very much. I'd like to thank you very much for watching. If you liked the video, hit the like button. If you disliked the video, hit the dislike button. Remember, when you use Linux, don't panic. I'd like to thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Goodbye.